When they set out to develop this car, they put a stake in the ground and said, we will build a 1 lakh rupees car. And then the global economy tanked and materials costs went up by 40%. Do you think that would give a leader an out? I think that would give him an excuse to say, wait a minute, all bets are off because we had no way to predict this. We didn't know. Our projections were based on a different model. And yet Rattan said, we are not going to change our goal. We are going to use these limitations, these economic limitations, as an invitation to greater creativity. It's going to force us to think this through even more creatively. He didn't bitch, he didn't moan, he didn't make an excuse. He got with the team and he said, limitations are going to drive us to a higher level of innovation. Let me tell you what attracted Jackie and I to this story. In India alone, you've got 1 billion people, right? 100,000 people die every year in auto-related accidents, most of them on two-wheelers. If he can put a dent in just 5% of that number in India, and then we extrapolate that to Brazil, to Malaysia, to Russia, to South Africa, to Mexico, and other developing parts of the world, think of the impact that he's going to have. And he has not stopped there. This car is now going to come out electric, and very soon we will see it in compressed air. Absolutely no emissions. This is a story about making a profit while making a difference. And here's the interesting thing. It has opened the floodgates in the auto industry for people to see what's possible. What if you opened the floodgates on value-based reimbursement? What if you were the one to open the floodgates in this industry that said, we've cracked the code, we've figured it out, we're not going to wait for the Supreme Court, we're not going to wait for these things, we're going to get out in front of this and we're going to build it, because it's going to come either tomorrow or down the road. We're going to get out in front of it now, and we're going to be the ones to open the floodgates because somebody had the guts to question the unquestionable. You have got to get every employee in your business to think and act like owners of the business. Why is this so critical? My answer is because they will see things that maybe you don't see. You can't know it all. You can't be it all. You can't do it all. That's not because you don't care, and it's not because you're not bright owners or managers. It's because you're not always at the point of waste or redundancy. So part of the challenge, I think, in this tough economic time is we got to figure out how do we continually become, we talk about innovation, like Smart Strand Silk. By the way, is that worth applauding here this morning or what? I mean, that's cool. That's product innovation, but you guys have also got to think about process innovation. How do we become more efficient and manage costs out? And I think you got to get every heart, every mind in your business engaged in doing that. What does that mean? I think it means starts by making me, as your employee, business literate. Let me give you 2 examples of what this looks like. We did some work with Stanley Steamer a few years ago. One of their top franchisees, Phil Dean, has 3 Stanley Steamer franchises. He is in the top 1% of the whole Stanley Steamer community. He's a marketing professor turned Stanley Steamer franchisee. Every time he gets a cadre of new carpet cleaners in, and he told me, he said, no uncertain terms, he said, Kevin, I want you to know that our pick of carpet cleaners is kind of like the bottom of the barrel, right? It's like people come to us after they can't get a job anywhere else, right? Because who really wants to go clean carpets? Sorry to say that, but that's his words. He said, we take a whole different approach. We sit them down for a day, and we run them through a rigorous orientation process. 1/3 of that day is how to read a P&L, because we want them to know what our numbers are. Because we understand that a lot of small things on a daily basis that nobody gives a rip about add up to big numbers at the end of the year. So we want them to understand the cost of doing business. 1/3. Second third of the day is how critical you are to the customer experience. Last third of the orientation, he gets them on the floor, throws out the magazines, they cut up pictures, and they put poster boards inside their lockers called dream boards. And the whole idea is, how are we going to use this franchise to help you achieve your dreams? Now, I think that's pretty cool. The unquestionable is what everybody in this room here this morning is absolutely convinced is absolutely impossible. Now, if you really look at the disruptors in the world, there are people who were willing to question it. There were people who were willing to ask why, right? 25 years ago, Ted Turner said, why? Why do I only get to watch the news at 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock at night? I travel the world. I've got a complex life. Why can't I watch the news whenever I want to? Built a 24/7 news channel and totally disrupted the industry. IKEA said, why do people have to, buy customized furniture and then wait 12 weeks to get it? Why can't we give it to them this afternoon? And radically disrupted an industry. Mary Kay said, why do women have to buy cosmetics in a store? Why can't we go to them? Why can't we build a party where they can interact with each other while they buy cosmetics? And radically disrupted an industry. Do I even need to talk about this one? Here's the beauty of what he's done. Right? What did he ask? He said, why do people have to buy a whole album? Why can't I just buy the song I want? What's the magic of the iPod? Obviously, it's iTunes. But for your sake, what you need to know is there are a minimum today of 25 health and medical related applications that are on the iPhone today that are empowering me and empowering Jackie to take responsibility for our own health care. Let me give you one example. I'm paying for past sins. I spent my time as a competitive water skier for 30 years, as a kid. I spent a lot of time in the sun. I got all these sunspots. I go in twice a year and tell my primary to get the keg out, put his little thing in, and psst, psst, psst. And some of you have been through that wonderful journey too. Well, today, you know what? I can take a picture of a mole on my skin with the iPad, with the iPhone. I can upload it to a service that will get it back to me immediately and say, yeah, that picture of what you just showed us is high risk, medium risk, low risk, and if it's high risk or medium risk and you want it, we'll give you a referral to a doctor if you don't already have one. One simple example, I doubt Steve Jobs even knew when he created the iPhone that he would radically disrupt the health industry. And yet, I would suggest to you that he is. This is one of the most well-known cardiologists in the world today, Dr. Devi Shetty. Shetty asked, why is it that only 10% of the world's population can afford heart surgery? Why is it that we have 2.5 million people every year in India that need heart surgery, but we only have the capacity to do 80,000 surgeries? Shetty is the founder of the largest cardiac care center in India, one of the largest in the world. Naren Udale Hospital, otherwise known as NH Hospital in Bangalore. It's a 1,000-bed hospital. He's extrapolated that now to 5,500 beds across India. His goal is to get to 30,000 beds. Shetty and his team are doing 7 times more open heart surgeries than our busiest heart centers here in the U.S. You say, well, what's his success rate? Well, how do we measure success in open heart surgery? We measure it by mortality 30 days after surgery, right? His mortality rate is 1.2%, which rates with the best in our country. You say, well, what's his hospital infection rate? His hospital-acquired infection rate is 2.8 per 1,000 ICU days. Again, comparable to the best in the world. Here's the deal. He's figured out how to do open heart surgery for less than $2,000. And of course, some of you in this room are going to say, well, obviously, in India, you got cheap labor. You know what? I'm not going to tell you that doesn't have something to do with it. But I would suggest he's buying the same medical equipment from GE that you're buying. He's buying the same supplies that you're buying. This is not about cheap labor. This is about radical process innovation. And here's what I find very interesting. He has just partnered with Ascension Health to build a 2,000-bed cardiac center in the Grand Cayman Islands, which is a 60-minute flight from Miami. Do you think that what they're doing there might have the potential to disrupt what we think is possible here?